Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside Guns with your host, me, the Yankee Marshal. Today, since yesterday was our Independence Day holiday, I want to take a moment to talk about patriotism and the gun community. And I want to talk about this because I got an email the other day on the actual 4th from a viewer who said, why is it that the gun community, who pretends to be so uber patriotic, are actually some of the least patriotic people? I mean, they're so also anti-government. Well, I want to address this question because I think you're confusing what it means to be patriotic. But I do think you still kind of have a point that a lot of people in the gun community really aren't patriotic. They don't understand what their country even stands for, the flag stands for, etc. It's like my grandfather used to say, people who tend to wrap themselves in the flag have the least understanding of what that flag represents. So I've always been weary of these people who put on their flag shirts and their flag hats and go wave their flag or wear their flag cape as their, U.S. flag stuff. I find that a desecration of the flag, to be honest. I don't like that at all. My grandfather didn't like that. I don't like that. Maybe just because of the way I was raised. But I think that's a desecration. Just like I do these Blue Lives Matter flags where they take an American flag, put it in black and white, or put a blue line on it and put a blue line on it. Or sometimes I've seen them in full color with just the 2 black stripes and a blue stripe on them. I find those to be offensive. They're desecrations of our flag. I don't like it when the gay community does a U.S. flag but replaces the stripes with rainbows but still does the 50 states and everything. I don't like that either. So I find that to be a desecration. Now, I don't care if people flying them on their cars or on the back of their truck. A lot of people find that to be an issue. I'm okay with that as long as the flag's in good condition. It's not tattered and stained and blah, blah, blah. But I'm getting off topic here. I'm talking about high street flags. I should be talking about what is patriotism. Because I don't think that being anti-government is necessarily unpatriotic. Just like I don't think protesting the flag is necessarily unpatriotic. I think it might be misguided, but I don't know if it's anti-patriotism, what I'm saying here. Because I don't think of the flag as representing the government, and especially not the people who just happen to hold government office. I don't think the flag represents that. I think the flag represents the ideals of our society, what our country stands for. The Constitution and the people. I think the people are the country. You can love your country and be completely pissed off at the people running it. I don't think most people that are in the gun community also that are anti-government are, we want all government gone and blah, blah, blah. They just don't like the way it's being run right now by people who are in charge, or for the last 3 decades, actually, for me. At least the last 3 decades, I ain't been quite happy with the way things have been run. But I don't think it necessarily means you're unpatriotic just because you don't like the government. In fact, that's one of the most patriotic things you can do. That's how the most American you could possibly be, is to be someone who says, I don't like when the government does this. I don't like when the government does that. And I think we should stop them. That's very American. That's one of the things the flag stands for, the ability to say that. Just like when someone protests the flag, they take a knee or they turn their back. It's their right to do that. That's what the flag stands for. If the flag were a person that represented all the ideas of our country, the flag person would be the first one to say they have every right to kneel. They have every right to turn their back. That's what this country's about. And usually, they're not turning their back on the people. They're not turning their back on the principles. They're turning their back on the people that are running things and how they're abusing those principles and that Constitution. I don't like it. I think it's misguided. Because I think when you turn your back on the flag, that's not as, the image you want to present. Because you should respect the flag. The flag should be put forward as the ideal. This is what our country strives to be. And it's everything good. The negative things, the systematic racism or systemic racism and all that other stuff, and bureaucracy and corruption, blah, blah, blah. That's not got anything to do with the ideals of America. That's the people who exploit the situation in the system. So I think you could be better served. I understand you're just getting the attention. So when you kneel at the flag, people pay attention and they go, why are they kneeling? What's the point? So I understand that it gets you the attention, but I don't think people do a good enough job to actually say it's not the flag we're mad at, it's not the country we're mad at, it's the people running it. I just don't think that it's really easy to get that point across. And I think a lot of people have a just outright wrong opinion of what it means to be patriotic. Patriotic isn't wrapping yourself in the flag. To me, that's very self-serving. Not only is it a desecration of the flag, it's very self-serving. It's, look at me, I'm more of a patriot than you are. And I don't like when people say, if you don't agree with me, you're not patriotic. You don't care about this country if you have a different idea about child care than I do, or health care than I do. I can accept differences with other Americans as long as they don't violate the tenets of what this country is supposed to be. When they start violating amendments and the Constitution, then we have a problem. But other things we can disagree on. But I just don't think a lot of people understand patriotism. They think sticking a flag in your truck is patriotic. I don't know if it is or not. It's a little showy for me. Also, a lot of rules you got to follow. Like I said, keep it clean, keep it blah, blah, blah. I don't have a problem with it. I do have a problem with like flag shirts. I do have a problem with desecrations of the flag. I have problems with all that stuff. It doesn't make you look patriotic. It just makes you look disrespectful, in my opinion. But that's my hang up, I guess. There is a code of conduct of what you can do with the flag, and turning it into a shirt, that's not one of the things in the code of conduct. Trust me. So don't like that stuff. And I don't really think it's that patriotic because it's self-serving. Like I said, patriotism is a love for your country, what it stands for, and therefore, to me, the people of that country. So if you're just doing something to make yourself look good, well, that's not patriotic, because love of a country means you love it. You love what it stands for. And to me, love means sacrifice. You're willing to sacrifice. If you love someone, you're willing to sacrifice for that person. If you love your country, you're willing to sacrifice for your country. How many politicians have sacrificed at all for their country? Not many. And how many people who wrap themselves in the flags have sacrificed for their country? Not many that I know of, because most people I know that are like ex-veterans, people that, actually stand up and try to make a difference in their communities, etc. They're not the bold, showy kind of people that are like, look at me and my flag shirt and my cape, and they're just not that type. Maybe some of them are, but the vast majority I find of people that wrap themselves in the flag the most, like my grandfather said, have the least understanding of what that flag stands for and have done the least to support it. So I'm not a real big fan of any of that. It's not necessarily not patriotic, but it doesn't show patriotism as far as I'm concerned. Patriotism is loving your country enough to accept when things don't go your way. Like if I go, well, I'd rather just burn the whole system down than I would have the people I don't like or the people I disagree with running things. No, I'm not going to do that. As long as the system stays sound, I'm going to accept sometimes I'm going to lose. Now, I don't accept when we lose on things that are clear-cut like the Constitution, because that's an infringement. So you have to kind of, weigh the importance of disagreements. But I think it's, to give an example here, like if someone at a baseball game, they play the national anthem, and for one, I don't think baseball games should play the national anthem. It's not a formal event. It's not any place where patriotism should even be a factor. You're rooting against other Americans. So I don't understand why it's even played at sporting events, because it's the people on the field aren't communists. Isn't one side's capitalist and one side's communist or so. It's Americans. You're rooting against Americans. So I don't think the national anthem should even be a part of it. Although I can understand where some people say, well, but it reminds us all that even if we're against that team, we're all still Americans. And then in that case, I kind of understand it. Doesn't mean I still support it. It just means I understand your point. But like I was saying, if someone at that game decided, I'm not standing for the national anthem, and someone next to them says, stand up or I'll break your goddamn neck. Well, the person saying stand up or I'll break your neck is not adhering to the American principles. They're being very un-American. Forced patriotism is something that we should never suffer. That's why I don't mind if someone doesn't want to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't really pledge allegiance to a flag. I pledge allegiance to America, its ideals, and its people, and its way of life. And the flag just represents those things. But I understand when people don't want to do the pledge. I understand when people don't want to stand to the national anthem, especially if they're people who have a real problem with the way our system is working right now. Not just people of color, but other people. I know there's a lot of white people who should probably be like, until things get fixed, I think we need to do a little more than just forced patriotism whenever they play the national anthem. So I don't care if someone sits down during the national anthem. I will stand. I'll take my hat off. I'll put my hand on my heart. That's my choice. And I'm an American and I can make that choice. Just like they're an American and they can choose not to do that. They could find it offensive even that they're being coerced to do something like that. And that I agree with them. They shouldn't be coerced. And the guy coercing them saying, stand up or I'll break your neck. I'm like, dude, what are you, fucking fascist? Are you a communist where everyone has to swear allegiance to the state? Because that shit don't fly with me. So that guy who's trying to think, I'm super uber patriotic because I'll kick your ass if you don't stand up for the national anthem, you don't understand what being an American means and what freedom means. It means he's free to stay sitting on his ass. Just like we're free to say, I don't think much of you as a person because you did that. Now you might, if I had a long conversation with me, you might be able to, if I had a long conversation with you, you might be able to tell me, this is what I was doing and this is why I'm doing it. And I might go, I support your cause. But I think there's better ways you can get your cause out there. But still, just based on appearances, I'm going to be like, I didn't think anything of him before. I probably don't even think much less of him now. Just don't think anything of him. He didn't make me think anything good of him. Let's just say that. But it's his right to do it. Just like it's someone's right to not want to say the pledge. Someone's right to not want to do this. And yes, I do agree with people who say it is someone else's right to burn the flag. And I agree that it is. If they bought that flag, it's their flag, they own it, and they want to set it on fire, preferably on private property, I would not find it to be very American to step in. Now, if they're doing it on public property, then it gets a little dicier. If they're burning somebody else's flag, well then yeah, step in and stop it, because that's a crime. But the right to burn the flag, that's kind of an American thing. Just like it is a right to say, I hate my government. I hate my politicians. I hate this. I don't like the president. I don't like my governor. My governor's a dweeb. My governor is a dweeb. So I understand all that. And to me, that's patriotic. I don't even know if it's patriotic to fight for the Second Amendment like I do, because the things I do are self-serving. I like the Second Amendment. I believe it's the only path to freedom, because the First Amendment is our most important amendment, and the Second Amendment is the only thing that protects and guarantees it. But I protect it for self-serving reasons. I'm not sacrificing for my country. So does that mean I'm patriotic fighting for the Second Amendment? No, I just think it means I have something I want to fight for. So patriotism is kind of like I said, it's an odd duck. It's like those people the other day, the Rise of the Moors, where they are. They were like, we're not anti-government. We're just anti-state government. And I'm like, I don't know enough about your cause. I don't know whether I support you or not. But I can understand that statement. We're not anti-government. We just don't like the way things are being run, especially on a state level. And I don't necessarily label them as unpatriotic or anti-American just because they don't like state laws and stuff like that. Because like I said, patriotism, it's a lot of gray area. Who's more patriotic? The guy exercising his right to not engage in forced patriotism, or the guy who's threatening to hurt him if he doesn't? Well, I think the guy sitting in that case is more patriotic. Now, the guy who stands up, puts his hand on his heart, and just goes, nah, to the guy who sits down, I think he's more patriotic than the guy that sits down because he respects the flag. But like I say, it's really hard to say who's patriotic and who isn't, because you don't know their motivations. Are they doing things like when I fight for the second? A lot of people would be like, oh, he's patriotic. He fights for the Constitution. I do it for self-serving reasons. I want to be able to own guns. I want to be able to protect my family. I want to be able to do these things. I want to be able to speak my mind. So that's why I do that. It's not me sacrificing. People really have to sacrifice. They have to, be willing to accept that they don't always get their way. That's a sacrifice for your country. It's better to say, this didn't go the way I want it to go, and they aren't doing things the way I want them to do it, but I'm not going to tear down the system. I'm going to actually use the system and try to change it. And try to get the people I don't like out of there. But I respect the system. I respect how our government is set up. Maybe not the people in it, but I respect how our government is set up. I respect how our democracy stands. I respect the people and the ideals of America. And I want to get to those ideals for everyone. I just want everyone to have equal opportunity. That's one of the problems a lot of people have right now in their country. Everyone doesn't have equal opportunity. You want to tell me that some guy born in a trailer park in West Virginia is going to have the same opportunities to go to a good school and get an education as some guy born with a silver spoon in his mouth in California? White or black? No, they're not going to have the same opportunities. So I would love to see a country where those two people have the same opportunities. So, love to see that. But it's just not the reality right now. So we haven't reached our ideals. So just saying, hey, the flag represents our goals and we're not reaching them, that's not anti-America. That's not non-patriotic. In fact, that's patriotism in my mind. I want to get to my goals and I'll even be willing to sacrifice to do it. That's a patriot. I'm not saying I'm doing that. I'm too old. I don't want to sacrifice anything. I'm getting too old. When I was younger, I signed up, but now I'm just like, leave me out of this stuff. But tired. I just want to take a nap. Can I just do that now at my age? But like I said, I forgot what my point was there. But the people that are willing to sacrifice to get to that ideal or are willing to stand up and say, hey, the system isn't serving some people, isn't serving me, it isn't doing things right, and I don't like it, that's super American. That's as American as you can be. It's not worshiping police is not American. Not worshiping any standing military, whether they be Army, Navy, police, whatever. That's not American. That's one of the least American things you can do. Kissing the boot of authority figures. American is having a healthy distrust of authority figures. The founding fathers didn't want an army. They didn't want police forces. They didn't want any of that stuff because they knew that's not the ideal. So being just a blind worshiper of any type of standing army, be they military or police, that's completely unpatriotic as far as I'm concerned. That's not being an American. That's being a subject, brainwashed, whatever you want to call it. So, like I say, a lot of things some people say are patriotic, like the guy over there that loves the police and he's wearing his American flag shirt and he's waving an American flag and he's yelling, "Death to commies." He might be one of the worst Americans you could think of, who's never done anything positive for this country, doesn't believe in the ideals of this country, just likes to feel like the America he wants is what he represents, and he represents America, not the other person. He might be the worst person you could think of and be not at all truly patriotic to what America stands for, whereas the guy who is sitting down during the national anthem could be far more patriotic. He could be someone that's sacrificing his own personal safety to try to make a point and make a change for the better. Or he could just be a dick who wants to sit down. It could be either one. But he could be far more patriotic. So as you can see, it's not cut and dried. And I think the gun community is very patriotic. I just think a lot of them are hypocrites and a lot of them are brainwashed, especially on the internet. Not so much in real life, but on the internet especially. Which gives the illusion that a lot of them aren't very patriotic because they want to burn it all down. We're not QAnon. The gun community is not a bunch of just people on the internet acting crazy. We're a real society of people in the real world. What is represented on the internet might not represent us very accurately. And even the ones, like I say, that appear like they might not be very patriotic, in the end, they might be the most patriotic person that you know. All right, I went way too long on that topic, so I'm going to go ahead and end the show with just that today. So I want to say thanks to everyone for coming today. I hope you come back again tomorrow. Until then, I just want to sign off as usual by saying, as far as the state of the world today is concerned, it is what it is. It could be a lot worse, but it could also be better. And if we as a society start realizing that the propagandists, the profiteers, the fearmongers, the big business guys aren't our friends. They're just trying to manipulate you so they can profit off you and serve their own selfish financial interests and serve the interests of manufacturers. If people start to realize that, what things will be in this country for people who love the Second Amendment and love freedom in general in the very near future is better.